Don Ivel here, and I just got back from playing a round of golf, and man, I had a great time. But that was all due to my playing partner. He's a super guy. We had great fun. And boy, I played lousy, and I think like most golfers, right on the way home, I was thinking, man, maybe it's time to get a new set of clubs, or change my putter, or change the brand of balls that I'm playing. And I thought to myself, wait a second. My clubs didn't magically get worse, in the last 2 weeks, or the brand of balls didn't change, and my putter certainly didn't change. So I thought, well, maybe it's not the equipment, it's me. And I started to, think a little harder, and yeah, you know what? My tempo was off a little bit. I was swinging the club too quick. I don't think I was concentrating enough. And I think, in a business setting, we do the exact same thing, right? You find in a law firm, maybe, you find out that you are getting hit with a claim. And, first thing you think of is like, you know what, my systems let me down, that the program did. We missed the statute of limitation. Obviously, the calendaring system didn't work. Or you're hit with the conflict of interest and something from the disciplinary board. And, you think, what, system didn't work. It let me down. Well, maybe it's, and you think maybe it's time to go out and, buy the new latest and greatest, programs for that stuff. And, before you do that, sit down, take a deep breath, and think about what you're doing and what your office staff is doing. Are you doing the right things so that your equipment will work and will work properly? Your calendaring system, are you updating that on a daily basis? Is your staff updating it on a daily basis? What about your conflict of interest system? Do you have all your clients, former clients, their ownership interest? Is that all in your conflict of interest system? What about your client documentation? Every time you talk to a client, are you marking that down in the system? Or are you sitting back at your desk after you're done and say, it's lunchtime, I'm gonna head get something to eat, I'll finish it when I come back. Well, when you come back, you never get to it. And, that's a cause, that's a disaster waiting to happen. It's not the equipment, it's your process, and you need to, maybe on a weekly or every 2 weeks, sit back, and check with your staff, check with yourself, and say, are we doing everything we need to do to make sure that our equipment is working properly? Before you run out, and spend all the money on a new system and trying to learn the new system, think about what you're doing. Because your systems are only as good as the information that you put into it. Likewise, just like golfing, right? You're only going to play as good as you swing. And you don't need to run out and buy a new set of clubs every time you play poorly. So, thanks for listening. I appreciate it, and I hope this helps. And remember, I'm Don I, your insurance guy.